What does the UK's autumn budget mean for investors? Yesterday, the UK's Chancellor of the Exchequer, Jeremy Hunt, announced the UK's autumn budget. This lays out the government's plan for the economy in the coming 6 months. In this video, I'm going to be breaking down the policies that were announced and then look at what that means for investors and the market's response to those policies. In short, Jeremy Hunt announced £25 billion worth of tax rises and £30 billion worth of spending cuts. This includes freezing the national insurance threshold for businesses, which will raise the Exchequer £5.8 billion by 2028. They've also announced an extension on the windfall tax, which will raise a further £14 billion for the Exchequer. But perhaps the most talked about element is the lowering of the threshold upon which a person has to pay the top band of tax. Now anyone earning above £125,000 a year will have to pay the 45% rate of tax. That's down from £150,000 a year. On the flip side, Hunt has committed himself to protecting the pension triple lock, which means that pensions will rise with inflation of 10.1%, and this also extends to some benefit payments. So what's the reasoning and the objectives behind the policies in the autumn budget? The UK is arguably facing 3 major issues. There's obviously more, but these are the 3 major ones. The first issue is the fiscal gap. In short, the government don't have enough money to cover their current expenditure. I explained about this more in a video I did previously on my channel. Obviously, by increasing taxes and cutting spending, they're able to make up the difference that they're missing. The second problem is inflation. The UK has really high rates of inflation at the moment. For this month, the new figure is 11.1%. What the government is attempting to do here is use fiscal policy, that is taxation and spending, to control inflation. The way they're doing this is by increasing tax rates, which reduces the amounts that people can demand in the economy, reducing consumption and aggregate demand, leading to lower prices. Additionally, we have this idea of fiscal drag. In the UK, we have a progressive income tax system. What that means is as your income goes up, you pay more tax. The current income tax bands look like this. As inflation rises, so too should people's wages. Obviously, wages aren't going up at the same rate of inflation, they kind of trail behind. But what the government have done here is they've kept the tax bands the same, apart from obviously lowering the top rate of tax at 45% down to 125k. What that means is as people's income are rising with inflation, they're going to be pulled into higher tax bands, which means that additional income is taxed more highly. That is going to reduce inflation through fiscal drag, because people have less money to spend because they're being taxed comparatively more. And this is an effect the government are allowing to happen in order to control inflation. The final problem facing the UK economy is productivity. Now, the UK economy for many years has seen declining levels of productivity. Workers aren't producing as much stuff and they're not producing that stuff as efficiently. Now, this budget doesn't really deal with that too much, so it's likely we're going to see the problems with productivity in the UK continue or even exacerbate as time progresses. So what does the autumn budget mean for investors and what has the response been in the market? So the pound actually fell by around 0.6% relative to the dollar after the announcement of this budget. Now that actually isn't too concerning, given that with the previous statement made by Kwasi Kwarteng, the pound basically tanked. So this is actually kind of a good show. Moreover, when the Chancellor finished his speech, government bonds actually rallied, so we've seen more buoyancy in the bond market, something which was a major problem after Kwarteng gave his statement. And this is actually a really positive sign of the macro-prudential stability of the UK. On the flip side, Nationwide, which is a building society in the UK, for you international folks that's basically a cooperative owned bank, issued a statement saying that they expect to see the UK mortgage market soften, and this will likely result in house prices softening too. However, there has been a rise in consumer confidence following Hunt's announcement. The GfK Consumer Confidence Barometer, which measures, as the name suggests, consumer confidence, rose from -47 to -44, and that's actually pretty impressive considering GfK were predicting an all-time low of -57 in November. Also, if we look to our close neighbours in the continent, we have seen some resilience in Euro stocks, and UK stocks may follow. This has largely been in response to the United States Federal Reserve's hawkish outlook when it comes to the US economy. The Fed is predicting further rises in inflation and further problems for the US economy, even though recently we've seen lower inflation numbers than we were expecting in the US. Of course, as the US moves, so do relative stock markets around the world. world. There also could be an element of follow the leader here. Now, the current Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, as well as his Chancellor, are really trying to champion this idea of fiscal restraint or fiscal responsibility. They're trying to hone in the government finances, and that's actually playing quite well with institutional investors. So it's likely we're going to see other countries and other economies around the world following suit. So what are your thoughts on the autumn budget? Let me know in the comments below. And make sure you follow the channel because I'm going to be doing a follow-up video where I talk about a dirty little secret within the autumn budget, which I don't think anyone's noticed yet. Well, until the next time, goodbye.